Hello, learners! Today, we will create our first Lambda function. These serverless compute services allow us to run code without provisioning or managing servers, making them perfect for event-driven applications. Join us as we explore the power and flexibility of Lambda functions. Let's get started.
So welcome back to our YouTube video lecture series on machine learning web application using SageMaker and other tools. So in this video, we'll use Lambda function. We'll create our Lambda function using a small Python program. So for first, what we need to do, we need to go in an AWS Lambda function. We can directly go from this AWS console and type AWS Lambda, and from there, you'll reach in this Lambda console. So first thing what we need to do, we need to create function. Just click here, and then we'll choose this option, author from scratch. You can give any name, my Lambda loan function 142142, and then runtime will use Python 3.1.2, and then what we need to do, we need to do change default execution role, create a new role from AWS policy. So let us put my Lambda 14 loan function. Okay, this is new role. So then we can do create function. Okay, function is created. Okay, now function is created. Next thing we need to do, remember, in this piece of tutorial, we are using different resources, different AWS resources, and we need to interact from one resources to another resources. Lambda function will interact with the SageMaker because we created endpoint. Later on, something else will interact with Lambda function. So in this way, we need to create a policy so that there will be full interaction. There won't be any boundary. Okay, so let us do that. So for that, for what we need to do, we need to go on AWS IAM console. So in order to go IAM, there are two ways we can go. We can directly go to the IAM, or we can go in this configuration tab. Remember, we created this my Lambda loan function. If we go down, there is one configuration tab. You will see code, test, monitor, and configuration. And in configuration, we have this role. So just click on this role, and it will directly go to this IAM, identity and access management, directly. Now, what we can do add permission. Okay, add permission means attach policy. There are two ways we can do. By writing code, we can do this create a line policy, or we can directly attach policy. So just click here, attach policy, and there are different policy. What we need to do, we need to give full SageMaker access. So just type here SageMaker, and then you'll see SageMaker full access. There are different access depending on application to application. We need to give Lambda full access to SageMaker. Okay, and then add permission. Okay, so it is here. Now permission for this Lambda function, we got this permission that is attached to our Lambda function. See, my Lambda 14 loan function. Now our policy is attached to our Lambda function. It can interact with our SageMaker. It can grab endpoint. Okay, so what we can do now, we need to write the code for our Lambda function. We have examined a similar code in SageMaker, but for Lambda function point of view, we have to write a code here. So we can go directly here, code, and we'll write a code here. Okay, so my code is ready. So here we can see we are importing this JSON, we are importing this photo 3, and then we are providing endpoint name, and then using that endpoint, our Lambda handler will deal with incoming data. Okay, whatever input will provide, it will handle and it will give us results. So we have trained our model. We use XGBoost, and XGBoost model, remember, we used different feature vector, and based on that feature vector, we predicted what will be outcome of our loan application. So that was whole concern. But for Lambda function, we are not going to write whole code here. What it is doing, it is taking this endpoint, and then it is taking the input data, and directly it is giving us an output. Okay. So for that, what we need to do, first we have written this code. I'll paste that code for you, and After writing this code, what we need to do, we need to test this function whether it is working on or not in the Lambda environment itself. Once we are sure that it is working in Lambda environment, then we will use our API gateway and then we'll go for actual web application. So let us test this in Lambda environment itself. So for testing, what we need to do, we have to click here on the test button and then we have to configure a test event. Okay, so we can create a new event, my 14 loan Lambda event. Okay, and then what we need to do, there are key input they are giving, but this is not our input. Our input, remember what was our input? Our input was data what we have given in our SageMaker notebook. Remember, this was similar thing we are giving here. So we are giving different feature vector, co-applicant income, applicant income, loan amount, different feature vector. Okay, just save it. And remember, it is in JSON format. Save it. And then we also need to save our Lambda function here, save. And then we need to deploy it. So let us deploy this Lambda function. Okay, so successfully updated my Lambda function 142. Now time is to test this function. So let us test just by clicking this test event. Okay, so again, this was our Lambda function, and I just realized that I need to write few more line of code in order to get results. So we added this couple of more lines for our loan status. So it was correct, but I added these 4 lines. So I'll paste this function for you. So let us save this Lambda function, save. Then again, we need to deploy this. Remember, the endpoint what I'm using here, these are temporary. You have to use your own endpoint, that endpoint which you'll see in your SageMaker notebook. After creating your model and fitting your model, you'll get your endpoint. Okay, and you can directly access that endpoint from your SageMaker console as well. If you go to your SageMaker console, you'll get your endpoint. Okay, now once it is done, it is saved. Let us deploy. It is already deployed, but again we'll deploy it again. Updating the function, it is deployed. Now let us test it. Okay, now we can see response not approved. That means it is working very well. Now we can also do some changes in our input file and see what is going to our response. It is not approved. Let us see what it will do. Okay. Now we can also test another input. Earlier input we have seen that it was not approved. So let us change our input. So just come here, configure test event. It was the same event, but what I did, you can see that we are increasing applicant income. 5300, earlier it was very less, 9800, and now I'm decreasing the loan amount, 28. Earlier it was very high. Now just save it. It is already saved. Okay, let us again test it. See, it is approved. Okay, so now we can see that our Lambda function part is over. Next thing what we'll do, we'll use API gateway, and from API gateway we'll move towards Amplify. Okay, till then, enjoy. Thank you.